Hey everyone, it's Rhonda here from Nelson's Soapery. Today let's get into our Sunday chat. As most of you know, I love to do the Sunday chat with you guys, and today is going to be a small one. It won't be super big, but it's all about oils and butters. So one of the questions that's come through this week is, what kind of butters do I use? How do I know what to use, especially in soap? So in front of me I've got a few here. So the particular one here is coconut, which is a hard oil, and coconut is super duper popular and it is definitely a staple in making soap. So there are some that I would say are a staple that, definitely don't take them out. It's good to leave them in. And of course some shea butter, lots of people use shea as well, but shea can be really expensive. But let's get into the main part of the topic, like I said, the butters and the oils. So we'll separate them for you first. So you really have two different ones. So you've got your liquid oils, which sound exactly as that sounds, liquid meaning, just like your olive oil that is a liquid form, or you've got your hard oils, and hard oils are like coconut oil, which like I said, this is the coconut oil, but obviously once you melt it, then that coconut oil will become, your liquid, but once it starts to solidify again, it goes hard again. So that's how you can tell your hard oils. So I usually put things in the hard oil basket, such as coconut oil, shea butter, your cocoa butter, there's just so many, mango butter, a lot of them which are in a hard form. And then you have your liquid forms, which are things such as your olive oil and, a sweet almond oil, apricot oil, jojoba oil. There's just so many of them that, you can sort of divide into the two groups. So now let's start talking about soap. So we'll break it down today with oils and talk about soap first. So a lot of people use palm oil in their soap. It's really controversial, and a lot of people really, I feel, don't have enough knowledge in understanding palm. I personally use it, but I only use the certified palm. Palm is also called shortening. For those of you that might be my age, nearing 50, when I was young, a lot of lollies had shortening in it. It was just a part of things the way they were in the 70s and 80s. But of course, educational wise, we've come a long way, haven't we, from palm? So, but for me, I generally use palm oil, shea butter. I always use shea butter, 100% always use that one. And so I've got my palm oil, my shea butter in it as well, and my coconut oil. So they're my three hard ones that I personally use. Then I will use apricot kernel, sweet almond, and then my olive oil. Of course, olive oil is what makes it absolutely gorgeous. And you've also got ones like castor oil. So castor oil creates the bubbles and the foam that you sort of want. But castor oil is also one of those tricky things that if you use too much of it, it just creates a real sticky bar. The same as if you use too much coconut oil, that can make a real crumbly, hard bar that is really impossible to cut. So there is just so many things that change the oils that you use. So I always say, do a lot of testing. I know that's something no one really wants to hear. But, if you sort of want a bar that is going to work, honestly, I would say something like olive oil, shea butter, cocoa butter, coconut oil. They're always easy recipes that are going to work. So some people, what they'll do is say we'll have 30% hard oils, and then they'll say 30% liquid oils, and then they'll play around with the different percentage. So quite often a recipe would be like 45% olive oil, and then the other two would be bought into that. But always pop everything back through soap calculations. So if you go to soapcalc.com, that's what I do. I pop everything in with the recipe I want, and then it will tell you how hard it is. And down the bottom on the left-hand side, it will just show you everything that you need to know. And on the left-hand side, it will say, how hard the butter is, how hard, the bar is, how creamy it is, all these different elements. For me, number one thing that I try and keep low to is cleansing. I always try and keep my cleansing to no more than 10 on that scale, because if you do, it can be a real itchy, dry sort of bar. But that's just a personal preference that I personally do with mine. And you might want to make different bars of soap actually that have different properties. So, you know, putting more coconut or high coconut, then that is a more cleansing bar. So if you've got, you know, a husband or some clients that are tradies, they might want that. I do make one of those for my son who's a tradie. So whereas my husband works in an office and he definitely wouldn't want that. So all those things really do equate to sort of testing and seeing exactly where you're going to go with those. So now we've talked about that. So the next thing is, you know, if you're doing something like these, which these are, you know, body butters and so on, if you're going to be doing body butters, then you might use different oils. So I try not to use sweet almond oil in my body butter. And the reason that I don't use the sweet almond is a little bit heavy. Same as olive oil is really heavy. You don't put much coconut in. That's quite heavy for that. But apricot kernel is a beautiful, really lovely light oil, the same as jojoba oil and avocado oil. They're beautiful in body butters. So, and of course with the main ingredient would be the shea, because shea, although is a butter, it is a soft butter and it's easily to break, whereas you get cocoa butter and you literally need a knife to separate it because it's so hard. So, you know, that's kind of a little bit, like I said, about the differences in when you're making soap to body butters. And then you might have other things where you're using a moisturizer as well. And, you know, you might use a moisturizer with your water, which this is something totally different, which means you'd need your preservatives and so on in it. So then you may change the oils that you're going to use in that. And you probably wouldn't put coconut in that particular blend. So obviously behind me, you can see that there's so many different products. So the oils I use will definitely change in regards to the product that I use. So all oils are definitely have different benefits and they just have different uses. So the most important thing is definitely looking up the uses on them and how you're going to get into them. Now, there is a third element that you need to consider, and that would be whether you're going to use essential oils in comparison to fragrance oils, because once again, they are totally different again. So your fragrance oils, you know, that's they're basically synthetic, they're man-made, they are not plant-based or anything like that. So, you know, that's one way you can go, and it will literally just give you the scent, but a chemist has literally made the scent rather than getting something from nature, whereas your essential oils are really highly concentrated. And then those ones there, of course, you might use in more face sort of creams or a lot of body butters. You might actually use essential oils rather than fragrances, whereas fragrances you'll use in soap and candles and so on. And some essential oils don't hold well in soap and some fragrances don't. So once again, it's just such a whirlwind of, you know, confusing elements in, you know, which one are you going to use and why are you going to use it. So the one thing I would definitely advise is do your homework. You know, go and Google everything. There's so many resources out there. One of the great resources I use is called N Essentials in Australia. It is a skin cosmetic company, and what they actually do is they supply all, you know, your raw ingredients, hard butters, preservatives, waxes, and so on. So definitely go to a company like that. And if you just go and, so for instance, if you look up jojoba oils, it will tell you the benefits to that oil and it will tell you what it can be used for and, you know, great ways to use it. The same as it will talk about, you know, coconut oil and the benefits and non-benefits. So, and also if you're making soap and you're putting it into soap calc, you actually need the coconut oil that says 76 coconut oil. That's the basic blend that you're getting from your shopping centre or buying in massive drums like I do for soap making. The liquid one is a different one again, so yeah, definitely put in the 76 because that's what you would be purchasing, like I said, from your store and so on. So play around with all the different oils that you're looking into and don't feel scared to have a play. If something doesn't work, go and change your oil a little bit as well. But the biggest advice with soap making is, like I said, number one, stick to 10% cleansing. Don't go over your number 10 for your cleansing. And you want the creaminess to be the higher part of the bar. And you really want your bar to be in hardness. You want it to be 29 to 40 is what I suggest. You can also use animal fats such as tallow in your soap as well. I personally don't use any animal fats at all. I'm in Australia and I sell along the Bay line And my customers aren't, vegetarians or vegans. They aren't. Some are, but they're generally not. But they just don't want animal fats. And personally, myself, that would turn me off using the bar. It might just be a personal thing, but, look at your target market. You may have a market that loves it. And, I have been told that the bar of soap is beautiful with tallow and it's really creamy and gorgeous on your skin, but it's just not something where my company is targeting ourselves. So, once again, this is a total personal preference. There's some soapers out there such as Quench, which is Jerica, and she uses the hemp oil, and that's something that her company is, does a lot with hemp, and that's obviously something that works well for them, whereas me, I always use jojoba oils and shea butter. They are my number 2 go-to for every product I use. I pretty much use those. So that's just where I've targeted myself. And that's what I mean. Everyone will be a little different. And you may kind of start with palm and then get out of that if people don't like it. Or maybe you'll offer a palm bar and then a tallow bar. So that's something you can do so that you're aiming to both people. But for me, I wanted to keep it simple and try and keep a lot of my soap oils and my bases the same, because I do buy in massive drums and then it ends up being really expensive if you buy huge amounts of, certain products in drums. So I always buy my coconut oil in a drum, sweet almond definitely in a drum, my shea butter, I buy that in 10 plus kilo lots. Usually, and they come in massive big buckets. I've got some buckets to the side, but they're too big to sort of pull out. But you can really, like I said, just play around with those and don't feel scared to do them. If you're doing body butters and you're using lots of butters, you would definitely need to put like arrowroot powder or something like that in, just to smooth it down a little bit, or even kaolin clay. Some clays can be really good because they sort of take that real oily edge off things as well. And that's where it comes to testing, which is exactly like candle making. If you make candles, it's the same thing. You need to test your different waxes and exactly what happens with those as well, which is, like I said, totally the same when we're talking about any skincare product. Is all about testing and playing with the oils. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of information about oils today and the oils that I use and that work well for me, and hopefully those oils can also work with you, but don't feel scared to get them. But my number one thing that I would say at the end of this video, my number one advice is definitely get them from a reputable supplier. If you're buying shea butters, mango butters, palm oil, make sure they are certified, because that way they are not hurting anyone. They're actually helping their communities to create these products to make a life and sustain their lifestyle as well. And that's what I do. There's things like Barack shea butter, and there's lots of information about them, especially on YouTube. Actually, have a look on YouTube, and they do have a clip which is really amazing. I'll see if I can find that clip and actually pop it down in the description box below for you guys. But anyway, like I said, thank you for listening, and I really hope this Sunday chat has been a little bit of fun and educational. So I will say bye for now, but if you have not subscribed, make sure you don't forget to do that. And of course, always like my videos, because that does help, but only if you think they're worthy, of course. And any comments, of course, you guys know I love answering you back, and I'll always give a response. So have an amazing day, everyone, and I will see you in a few days' time.